can you see this person's perspective, but can you see beyond this barrier that is in front of you right now? And we do get to that place of gratitude and actually appreciation. Now, it takes us refusing to stay in a victim mindset in order to do that.
Welcome, welcome.
Hello.
How are you?
Hot, stinky, and sweaty, but feel fantastic. How are you?
You've been to Planet Fitness, haven't you?
I have. I've been.
That's so good.
I literally just walked in the door a few minutes ago, so I didn't even change. I said, let me just go be stinky for everybody.
It ain't smell-o-vision. We're all good. We're all good.
We're good.
You know, I think that's a really kind of a key into jumping in. One of the things that I wanted to talk about this week, I wanted to talk about rebuilding after change. Sometimes we make a big life change. Sometimes it's our own choice. Sometimes we decide to uproot. Sometimes we get uprooted. We get downsized in a job or whatever, and we find ourselves with a new normal. And we're looking at a new horizon. And I wanted to talk about ways that we can rebuild a new normal, rebuild a new things, you know, because I know for me, I've completely taken a big change for me since January, you know, and looking at your life a little bit differently, maybe something that you've done and since you were a teenager and you're literally doing something new for the first time. And I thought it'd be really kind of cool how to do things that are how to positively move in a new direction, because change, like you've always pointed out, change is not bad. It's just change. It's just change. And when we have a brand new horizon, how do we approach that? How do we start that?
Well, the number one question is what do you want to get out of it? Do you want to start over and be, I don't know. I mean, I guess the question is, what does a person want to get out of it? You know, life is always going to continue evolving, no matter how we show up, no matter none of that. Life is going to continue to evolve. So we either show up for the game or we sit on the sidelines and complain about it. So,
well, one of the things that I found interesting is like after a certain age, okay, now here's an obvious thing. After a certain age, how do you make new friends? It's really hard. I mean, a friend of mine just retired and she moved to a foreign country. She moved to a new place entirely. She tried something different. It was a place that the tax code was very good and it was less expensive to live in this country than to live here. But she doesn't know anybody.
Well, I mean, that's going to take getting out and, you know, putting yourself out there, exposing yourself, exposing the things finding groups of people that do things you like to do. You know, I'm a big fan of the meetups. They're not, when I was suggesting to clients, they're like, oh, I don't want to do dating things. And I'm like, it's not a dating thing. I mean, I'm sure people have met on Meetup and, you know, have like-minded.
What is Meetup? Now, let's talk about that. This is a resource that a lot of people don't know about. First of all, it's free.
Mm-hmm. Meetup.com, and then put in the city that you're in. And what that is it'll have you do a little profile. So it's kind of like Facebook. You do like a little picture and you do like kind of the city you're in, or, you know, you can do like the age boxes. And then you go in there and you choose the different activities that they have. They have meetups for all ages, likes, educations, all kinds of things. They have everything from wine tasting and sailings to bar pubs and bird watching to dog walks to belly dancing and kayaking and book clubs and you name it, game nights. And so what it is it does challenge you to expose yourself to go with a group of people that you might not otherwise know. But I did a belly dancing one earlier. It's been probably 4 years ago, maybe now. And I loved it because it was, when when they send the thing over that says, like I marked belly dancing. So when they sent that over, it was like, hey, there's this activity going on. And when the people say, yeah, I'm going to go, then you see who's going to go. So it's kind of like, if you're in the same area, you can ride together, but it requires a person to put their self out there, and a lot of people will say, well, I don't want to do that. I don't want to put myself out there because I don't know anybody. Well, you don't know anybody now. So what's it going to hurt? You're going to put yourself out there and you're going to meet somebody. You can meet friends that do different things. Meetup is a great one. Then there's another one called, I think it's called Hamby or something like that. I'm not sure. One of my friends told me about it. And it's just where it's kind of like it's a list of all it's like on, is it Ebright or something like that? Like the
Eventbrite or Eventbrite.
It's a list of all of the things that are going on in Nashville that are like craft wise. So it's calligraphy, sips and strokes, making pottery, making little leather purses, like all kinds of things like that. And that's a great resource. It's in the Nashville area. And they have pretty small turnouts. So it could be anywhere from 5 to 10. Just a nice way to go to do something you like to do, make some candles, whatever, and get to know people and build relationships that way.
I love that. That is in our world right now, in the world, loneliness is cited as one of the number one problems. And we're so connected virtually that we don't have, we literally, and we got an entire generation of people who have no connectivity skills, none, because everything has been, there's a certain age group that will literally sit in the living room and they text each other because they can't have interpersonal communication. And I see more and more of that. And so trying to reach out to people and meeting people in our new world, it has to be intentional.
But, I agree with that. I also would challenge that so much that I'm not so sure it's a new world as it is just who we are as individuals. Because I know with COVID and all that, that shook everybody. But the only reason we really have friends, and we're social creatures anyway, is because from 2, 3, 4 years old, we're forced into situations where you have friends. You're forced into preschool. You're forced into elementary school. You're forced into middle school, primary school, high school, college. And every one of those junctures, there's already a ready-based friend group. You just have to figure out where it is you fit in. Right. Then when you hit your 40s, 50s, 60s, well, 40s, not so much, 50s, 60s, if you go through any big life changes where you're uprooted, where you move, where you've, ended a relationship or, changed jobs or had a death of a partner or spouse, whatever, you find yourself in a place where it's like, okay, well, now what? It's the same thing. You just have to put yourself in those environments again. And the only difference is when we get older, we know all the bullshit and we know how people show up and we know the people that talk too much and the people that don't talk enough. And we get a little picky about who we want in our circle. And picky is okay. Judgy is not.
And there's a difference. There really is a difference.
There's a difference.
Yeah. The people who show up, you don't just take anybody who shows up on the doorstep. You don't invite everybody in.
Right. This is not your second grade birthday party where your parents are going to invite your whole class and you don't like your whole class. This is not that. Like, this is, you get to pick who comes into your circle.
Absolutely. And that's important to remember. Another thing other than meetups, I have found one of the best ways to start your new horizon is to volunteer in something you've always been interested in, but have never given yourself the chance to do. it's just finding a group of people. And I know one of the things that I find that's really interesting too is don't limit yourself to an age group.
Absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
I have, I call them my spirit kids, but I have so many young friends that are young songwriters, and whether I'm a mentor, whether they call me mom, it's all okay with me, because they have created something for me that I wouldn't have otherwise, because I don't have children. So I watch these kids and I go and see them perform and stuff like that. And then I start connecting with other people who like their music.
Sure.
And that's another thing. So don't limit yourself and go, well, I'm not going to go there because only young people go there.
Or I'm not going to go there because only old people go there.
Oh, that's the other thing, right?
You know, I mean, there's a wealth of, connectivity. Not every 30-year-old is going to act like a 15-year-old, and not every 50-year-old is going to act like a 60-year-old. We don't really always act our age, because age is kind of this thing. I mean, age is a concept that has come around because it helps us in society. You reach a certain age, do this. They're milestones, touch points. So not everybody feels the age that they chronologically are. Like, I don't feel like I'm 60. I feel like I'm 40. And I don't know because I don't know what 60 is supposed to feel like, because I didn't know what 15 was supposed to feel like either. So I am who I am. You are who you are, and our listeners are who they are, and so everybody has a different idea of where they fit. And so you might be a very young whatever, and you might feel like, you know what, I want to hang out with some people that are a little more vibrant. And also doesn't mean that an 80-year-old's not vibrant.
Right. Well, I know there are a lot of people who are watching right now, and I want to invite you to add your comments if you are looking at if maybe you've been recently uprooted, maybe your life has had a big change, and maybe you, oh, this is hilarious. Suzanne, you know what she just wrote? I just left the gym and I feel 80.
Well, sometimes that happens.
Sometimes it does happen. That's another thing too, is finding a new physical thing to do when you feel uprooted. Creating something new physically to get your whole being involved it's a great way in the pivot, and when I use the word, when I was asking this question of, when you feel uprooted, when you feel like the foundation has been shaken, you are maybe you're etch-a-sketch, and you're a clean slate, you're brand new. The cool thing is that is an opportunity, Chance. That is an opportunity to write a new chapter to your book, your life story, and it becomes exciting if we allow it to be. I know that it's very, very easy to drift into, but I've done so much in my past, but used to be. And I have a dear friend that I just love so much, and she doesn't live in Nashville any longer, but she keeps referring to her life in Nashville was just golden. It was just golden. And if I could just get back. And I said, you know what? It's not the same place. The old adage, you can't step in the same river twice.
Right. Because it's always moving.
It's always moving.
So people move away from places that they love, and they think that when they go back, it's going to be the same. But it's not the same, because it's a constant evolution of everything changing.
Hey, Linda, good to have you with us. Linda got a sting this weekend, so I hope that you're healing. She is one of those that's allergic, as I am, and it has caused some issues for her. And so, Linda,
like a bee sting?
Yeah, I think it was like a yellow jacket, I think is what she said. And those really hurt. They really, really do. And and it caused some issues. So I hope you're healing well. when it comes to a new chapter in your life, whether you chose it or whether it got chosen for you, I want to encourage you to embrace it. A lot of people think of themselves as one thing, but and I know for a long time for me, it was being a DJ. Then it became the air personality, or I'm a radio person. And then when I didn't have a radio show to go to after 40 years, it took a lot for me to wrap around what that would feel like.
Mm-hmm.
Because I wore headphones for so long, Teri, the only time I could sleep well was to put on my Sony headphones with those cushion things, and it wasn't plugged into anything. I would just sit there with my headphones on and I could drift off. I just felt much more comfortable with my headphones on.
Mm-hmm.
Linda said, thank you, got meds. No time for staph infection. Okay. Right. So glad that you're healing. So my change was I had to rebuild and think of myself with this new me, this new, whatever it is, your new normal, and
Right.
create a new chapter, for myself. And I'll be honest, there's sometimes when I have the little grief monkey that jumps on my back and I feel like a total fish out of water. I'm not doing the thing that I've done since I was 16 years old. I'm doing something different.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have those days when I have to face that and wrap
Mm-hmm.
around that.
Right. Right.
So if you're in that uprooted place in your life, I want to encourage you to wrap around those moments of grief, because they're going to come. They're going to come.
You're not going to get away from them.
And you can try to run from it or whatever, but they'll come. And it's much easier to just kind of wrap around it and have your little moment and then go, okay. But now that I don't have to do blah, 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 and blah, 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 now I have time to do whatever. Usually that's my time to go out and brush a horse.
Right.
The stuff that I didn't get to enjoy fully. So I always say, literally get yourself a notebook. I have one, and mine says stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I keep those little notebooks going all the time. What's something that you have pushed to the back burner? What's something that you've always wanted to do and never, ever attempted? Maybe there's a class. That's another way to meet people. I will tell you, taking pottery classes at the Mud Puddle in Pegram was one of the highlights of my life. I was like a kindergartner. I'd come home. I mean, I was spackled with pottery stuff. I mean, I literally looked like a little kid coming home from kindergarten. And the stuff I created was as ugly as anything if you look at it compared to whatever. I mean, I started with a vase and ended up with a ring dish.
There you go.
But you know what? I'm as proud of that ring dish as I am of anything I've ever accomplished in my life, because I had fun doing it.
Right.
And so what is the thing that you don't take time to do or don't have time to do that this new pivot and this new life thing is opening the opportunity for you to experience? Teri sent me some pictures. I'm going to tell you, she sent me pictures of a place where she can put a kayak in, and it was stunning. I've never kayaked in my life, and that's not probably on my list because I always have this fear of I'll never get out of the boat. You know those YouTube videos of the people trying to get in and out of those boats?
Mm-hmm.
That's me. That's me. But you have found some of the most beautiful places in this world, and the places that are close by that I would have totally missed had you not sent me pictures of them.
I love to kayak, and so I'm all about, this is my secret. First, I Google it, like the particular area I'm going to go to, and then I Google Earth that area, and then I can see where there are places that you can put in a kayak. And yes, I found a couple of spots last weekend that are amazing, and I'm really looking forward to getting back there and, putting them in and just being on the water, because I love being on the water. Now you can have someone be on the water with you, and that's just as fun. Or you can, because it's not, being on the water with somebody kayaking is kind of like being in a movie. You're not talking the whole time. You're not even really around each other. It's just somebody out there with you. And, a lot of people will say it's safer to kayak and, with one or two other people just because you're on water.
Mm-hmm.
But kayaking is just that thing for me that like you get in the kayak and, you just paddle. And I can be out there for 4 to 6 hours and it feels like I've been out there for 20 minutes. It is a meditation in motion. So I love it. But for some people it's, they want to ride bikes, but they don't want to do like the cycling thing. They just want to ride a bike. Other people want to take walks, other people love to camp. It's just about finding things that you enjoy doing. And it's not really about making the time to do it. It's about scheduling the time to do it. Because we have the same time in every day that we've had in every day since we were born.
I want to encourage everybody to discover the world where you are. There are so many people, for instance, even in Nashville, people who've been in Nashville their whole lives and still have not done any of the things that the tourists who come here experience.
Mm-hmm.
They've never gone to the Country Music Hall of Fame or the Tennessee State Museum or the Parthenon. There are so many amazing things in our world, and that can be anywhere you are in the U.S. I am constantly being sent pictures. I love waterfalls. And our state is full of some of the most beautiful waterfalls in the world. And yet nobody, I'm constantly seeing new ones that I go, I've never heard of this one. And, I have a list of all the waterfalls I want to see. When I went to Boston, I took a trip to Boston by myself. And I hired a driver. And I know that sounds really bougie, but Linda says she loves the waterfalls in Tennessee. Thank you, Linda.
Is it any more bougie than hiring a Lyft or an Uber?
No. See, but this was before we had Lyft or Uber. So I hired a driver because I didn't know the area and I get really lost. And he said, well, where would you like to go? And I said, I want you to take me up the Cape and I want you to show me some lighthouses. And he goes, I've lived here my whole life. And he said, no one has ever asked me to do that. I said, just show me these places. And then where would you eat if you just wanted a good lunch? And he took me to this little food truck that was selling homemade lobster rolls. And I went and saw all of these lighthouses. And it was amazing. And I think that the adventurer in us, when we awaken that, then a new pivot or a new change or an uprooting becomes an adventure as opposed to a loss. And I think we just have to flip that. And I wouldn't have brought that up if I hadn't had so many people. I know that I'm 62, so I have a lot of compadres who are in the retirement years. They're looking at their next deal. What are we going to do? And the people who retire, some of them just love it. But 100% of the people who just love it are people who said, I'm done and I have no value. They didn't just stay home. They said, I'm retired, which leaves so much time to experience my new life. That was the difference. And that's where, if we can reposition our mindset first, then life changes. Now, this happens too. It happens with young people. I know it happened. The first time it happened to me was when I was in New York. I graduated from college, went to New York. I lived with my sister and two models, and one, an announcer for ESPN and a model, and Faith. And so we were in this apartment. Well, Susie got married to an athlete, and she left, and then Jennifer met a boyfriend and she left, and my sister moved to LA, and so I was left in New York by myself. And I started riding horses every weekend. And I'd go and rent a horse, and just pay my little money and just go ride through Central Park. And I said, I need to leave. Should I go back home? And then I made the conscious decision to choose a place. I sent letters to chambers of commerce all over the country. I said, tell me about where you are. And I consciously chose Nashville because it had so many interesting things, and that was back in 1986. Well, when you go through college and you graduate and you're a young adult trying to figure out where home is, oftentimes that's determined about where you grew up, by where you grew up.
Mm-hmm.
Now we get to choose something different. And that happens throughout our lives with every life change. Hello, Larry Casabella. He just joined us. How are you, Larry? Now, what about you, Teri? When different times in your life, you've had a lot of pivots in your life too?
Well, I think we all have pivots. I think, my biggest pivots have been in career fields. I think it's exciting to start new career fields. My mom was in the same job for 51 years when she retired from it. And she loved that stability, Mm-hmm. I have had enough jobs that when you look through my resume, it's like you're going through a menu at the Cheesecake Factory.
That's a big menu.
That is a big menu. But, they've all been interchangeable, and they've all been what I would consider stepping stones to the next thing, except when I was a travel agent. That wasn't really, that I just got to use my knowledge about Nashville when I was, I got to use my knowledge about Nashville when I was a travel agent. And so I love that. But most of the people that I was booking travel for were traveling out of Nashville, not to Nashville. But yeah, I think pivots in life, just in general, going from having children at home, not having children not having children, being an empty nest, being married, not being married. I think with every pivot in life, we have choices. And,
Mm-hmm.
Some people will say, well, that's just a challenge. It's just change is hard. And I'm like, change is not hard. It can be scary. It can be challenging. It can be lonely. But one thing is it's not hard, because
Mm-hmm.
your mindset is what the change itself is.
Mm-hmm.
It's just happening. It's the mindset that we bring to it.
There's our Elizabeth. Sometimes pivoting can bring the next unexpected surprises our way.
It's true.
It's true. Mm-hmm. I think that if we look at the grand adventure, I always say that a book with one chapter is inherently boring. One big long chapter, not fun to read. What makes for an interesting book, an interesting life, is all the ups and downs, the changes, and how you deal with them and how you move through them. I mean, it's exciting. It's good stuff to wrap around the change and to look for the next adventure. Well, I just thought rebuilding would be kind of fun. So meetups, volunteering, taking a class, those are all ways to set a new foundation when your foundation has been kind of clean slated for you.
Right. And I'll tell you this, I don't know I know on the iPhones, it's in the App Store. I don't know what Google or any of the Android phones have, but there is for people that like nature, there is an app out there called Merlin Bird ID. And it looks like, well, the logo on it, is that little bird right there?
Yeah.
And what you do is you literally pull it up and you push this button. It won't do it in here, but you see it's tracking.
Mm-hmm.
If I were outside, it would be tracking the birds. And what you do is you hit.
Brenda says, "I have that app." Linda has
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
And when you track the birds, what it does is it tells you, it recognizes all the chirps that are around you, and it tells you what they are. And last night I was sitting outside, and I'm surrounded by trees, and notoriously there's always birds out here, and there were doves and crows, finches, sparrows, a duck came by, robins, something called a grackle or something like that. I've never even heard of it, and a wren. And what it does is it lists all of the birds that it hears, and then when they are chirping, it highlights which one it is, so that you can identify by how they chirp what the bird is. And I mean, that's not for everybody, but I love the sound of birds. I love the sound of them. And so it's very peaceful to sit out there and to hear them, and then now I can I didn't know what a robin sounded like. I've been around robins my whole life. And then I was like, oh, that's a robin, a dove I get, because they do the cooing, and a duck, obviously. But, it's just interesting. So even that.
What's the name of that app?
It's called Merlin Bird ID.
Merlin Bird ID. Okay. I love it.
Yeah. And I think it was Cornell University that put it out. One of my clients actually turned me on to it, because we were having a session one day and we were on the phone, and she commented and said, wow, you are surrounded by birds. And she said, my brother has an app on his phone. And so she sent me the app, and I listened to it, or, I downloaded it, and, it's just, it's nice just to hear them,
That's amazing. Elizabeth put it she put the app in the comments. So thank you, Elizabeth, for doing that.
And that's another thing. I mean, I don't know that I would ever join a bird watching group. That's not really my jam, but for people that like birds that much, then there is, there's opportunity for, something like that to listen to become well-versed in all kinds of things.
You're exactly right. I met a young woman that she had said, you know what, I lost my job and I was kind of thinking, what am I going to do? And she started gardening. And then she says, I got interested in bees, and I realized how important bees are to what we're doing. So she joined the Tennessee Beekeeping Association. She goes, I didn't know anything about bees. She goes, now I've got 4 hives. And I kind of inherited them because somebody in the beekeeping group said, so-and-so is getting rid of some of their hives. Who wants to take them over? And she said, so I go and pick up these hives. And she says, and I do honey for myself every year. And she goes, whether it grows, I don't know if I will, but she says, I've learned how to become a beekeeper.
Right.
I mean, I just think it's fascinating. And I said, if you are a learning, curious mind, you are never bored. You are never bored.
Absolutely.
So try to learn something every day.
Another thing people can do, if they have friend groups, but they don't see them often, you can do, you can do game nights. Like you can literally, there are games out there that you can play. You can play them virtually, or you can do a game night at your house, and just have a few people come over, and whether you're putting puzzles together, or whether you're playing Yahtzee, or whether you're playing Uno or whatever, have a retro game night where you're playing, Connect Four, or some of those fun games like that. If you really want to get adventurous, try Twister. I never suggest anybody do Monopoly, because as a child I hated Monopoly. It was I know a lot of people love it. People that are very analytical and strategic thinking, they love Monopoly, and I'm like, I don't care. I don't care how many properties I own. I don't care how many times I go to jail. I don't care. It just doesn't jam. But you let me play checkers or Trouble or Connect Four. I love that stuff.
Elizabeth says we need a virtual game night with our girl gang.
There you go. There you go.
We definitely do. Yeah, Life was the game that I really loved. I really loved Life. That was one of my favorite ones. And I liked Monopoly too. I was that kid who really wanted to invest in real estate. Elizabeth says, cutthroat monopoly girl here. Oh my gosh.
Y'all can have that.
That's so
I'm just like, I don't care. My daughter will say, if we're going to do a game night, we can't do anything competitive because my mom is just not, I'm not competitive. It's not that I enjoy playing things, but I think I played so many sports in high school that, and it was so much about win that I just am like, I just want to have fun now. I don't want to play. And you can ask my moms. I mean, like I can get up, I can watch a whole Lifetime movie and get up with 15 minutes left in it and go, well, I'm going to go now. And they'll just look at me like, are you what? And I'm like, yeah, I'm just not that invested in it, you know? So
Pictionary and creative games. Elizabeth also liked those. So
Pictionary,
those are all fun too. I'm not very competitive either. I have to compete in so much that I do in life that I'm really cool with. Let's just have fun. Well, I hope we've given you guys some ideas and some food for thought. And if you've experienced the uprooting or the change or anything like that, that you are able to look at it as more of an adventure and part of your journey.
Absolutely. And part of my journey today is going to be going in here and making some blueberry muffins, because I was in, of all places, the other day, Walmart, and I found, who knew that it existed? Maybe everybody, not me. I got so tickled because I found Dolly Parton blueberry mix.
Oh, yes.
And I laughed and I thought, who in the world? Like, really? But then I just said, this is just too good not to do. So I'm just going to make some Dolly Parton blueberry after. I got real blueberries and some other stuff to do a crumb topping on it. So I'm gonna zhuzh it up a little bit. But yeah, that's going to be on my to-do in between clients and cleaning my car today.
I love it. Well, Linda, thank you for the compliment. We're glad that you were here. And thank you, Elizabeth and Suzanne and the whole crew and the people that don't weigh in. We know that you're there and we're glad. And Linda's also weighed in. Dolly has her own Lodge cast iron pans now, too.
Well, how about that? Who knew?
See, Dolly, she mogulizing.
I just got tickled because I rounded the corner and there was a whole display of Dolly Parton baking products. And I thought, does Dolly bake? I don't know if Dolly bakes, but I said, let me just go ahead and buy this, because why not? You know, talk about this nostalgia.
Just the behind the scenes. Yes, she does.
Does she?
Uh-huh. She likes to cook, just good old country cooking. And she actually does and can. And I thought that was kind of a cool thing that, you know, she is one of those kind of people that she doesn't like to do something or say she does something if she doesn't. That's why going into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, she's going to release a rock record just to make it a little bit more authentic. You know, it's just, you know, she's like, so I grant her that. And she's also got a line at Krispy Kreme.
Really?
Yes. I know.
See, and they're just to wrap up this entire thing that we have talked about, challenging yourself, pivoting, and new beginnings. Who knew we were going to wrap it with Dolly, but look at her go. She has been a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader this last year and rocked the shit out of that. And now she's all over the place with cast iron skillets and baking goods.
So good day, everybody. That's day.
Right. Well, until we all see one another again, live or virtually live, whichever the case may be, please create moments to, you know, check in on yourself and check yourself. Make sure you're doing okay. Make sure that you are setting boundaries. Make sure that you're giving yourself grace. And until we see you again next week, increase your peace. See ya.
Bye, everybody.